Testing. JB here. Testing. February 8th, 2022. I'm just going to be really quick. Don't have too much to talk about. Obviously, I haven't done much in the way of trading the last couple of weeks. But obviously, one of the names that I've got very interested in recently, obviously, as it being one of my top 5 stocks for 2022, ticker APPS, Digital Turbine. I remember seeing that one, maybe it was last year or the year before, and I did a first glance. I said, this is like malware, spamware company that's just pretty much taking advantage of filling a niche that eventually is just going to get removed. And the removal would be, Google would just squash them, right? They can have their own app installer and things for Android. But they have partnerships with all these other cell phone companies, but outside of Apple. So if they got Apple, obviously that'd be huge. And then they've been able to scale out and grow in other ways to help monetize what they're already doing. So they acquired two different companies at the last year, and that's why it's going to be a huge earnings beat after the close today. 250% revenue year over year. I don't know what the EPS or how that all looks, but last quarter when they reported a decent quarter and a beat and a raise, the stock sold off 20%. Obviously, market environment's a little different last quarter and coming into this quarter, so tough to, is the reaction going to be the same? I'm hoping that it's a monster beat and raise and the stock takes off over $60. Already got the opportunity to lock some of my calls in yesterday to cover costs, so I'm riding free. Obviously, risk reward, tough, right? Because even if they beat and raise and the stock goes up 10%, the calls are going to go down in value. So probably substantially in value. So it's going to have to be a 15% plus move after they report into tomorrow. But I've seen plenty of those moves before, especially in a high growth name like this. And I think I don't think a lot of people are aware of the company as much as they should be, considering I think it's a $6 billion valuation. But I think it should be back into the 70s or so in the coming months, pending a market craziness, right? Which obviously the market's been crazy. So that's one. APPS, Digital Turbine. Yeah, it should be fun after the close. Chipotle, I've been looking at Chipotle, and it was ironic. What was it, Facebook or one of those? No, it wasn't Facebook. One of those earnings reports last week or the week before, I posted the calls the puts were insanely expensive. Maybe it was Google. I don't know, but Chipotle is a similar situation. Here's a stock is trading at 14. I don't know what is it now. 14.52. And let me see if I can get the exact ones up right now. But the 2,000 calls, so $540 out of money, $550 out of money, they're $1 by $1.40. Let's see what they are now. It's insanity. Well, I should say insanity unless you're selling premium, but there's risk involved in selling the premium. They were $1.20 by $1.45. When I looked before the open this morning, they were $1.90 by $2.10. And then you start looking at 1,800 calls. They've actually gotten a little better here. So let's see what the percentages are. The 1760s are down 13%. So some of the premiums on the call side have gone down, but like 10%, not 30%, or come down enough to have a decent risk reward. So as much as I think, I just have to think that Chipotle's probably going to look to do a stock split. I have to think at some point they would do that. Outside of that, the company's well positioned. They have I think it's $1.2 billion in cash, no debt. They have a buyback authorization, so they're buying back shares. And it's not like they're a company that has to do offerings and things like that in this environment, the rising rate environment. Those are the companies that might have an issue. But then the one concern that's always concerned with Chipotle, always has been, is their cost, right? When you're a restaurant that has ingredients that fluctuate in price, guac, avocados, chicken, so on and so forth, those fixed costs become an issue. So do you pass them on to the consumer? What does that all look like? We'll have to see how this all plays out. But that would be the only kind of, concern that might impact the numbers. But I have to think it's going to trade back at over 1,700 or so. Tough to play the calls on that. So I'll probably look to play it tomorrow. So that's Chipotle. Stratasys, so I've added those calls last week or the week before. They just announced on Monday that they're going to announce earnings at the end of February. I think it's February 28th. It's a good thing. Not that it would happen, because I look back at the previous earnings from Stratasys, and they usually report earnings in the last week of February or so. If they had done after the March expiration, it would have totally destroyed whatever premium was left on the calls. But they are reporting on February 23rd. So 2 weeks from tomorrow. Should be interesting. I've always been in and out of SSYS at least since 2013. And I always have in the back of my head some of these companies like GE or what have you. There's already been M&A last year with X1, DM acquiring them. Not saying the same things that happened with Stratasys, but you have to think there's, it's not like the technology is going away. It's just become more widespread, prevalent, and I think that just continues to make SSYS a detractive buyout target. Not only that, they're returning to growth this year. It's supposed to be, I don't know if it was 15, 20% year-over-year growth. They've had some struggles the year before and the year before that. That's why the stock kind of has been bumping around. But I think a nice quarter at the end of the month here, Stratasys. I think it's in the 30s. And then maybe I'll look for some other opportunities to play that for upside. Peloton, like crazy stuff with the Peloton. I don't know if I said it on a rant or I did on the watch list 2 weeks ago. So I thought at some point people are going to come in and start looking to acquire them because, I have 2 million active connected users. It's a niche for fitness, so it becomes attractive for some of these companies who are trying to get into that space. Even if it's just a platform for, like, for example, Nike. People say Nike's not a good. Let's see. Hang on one second. Nike's not a good fit for them, but here's Peloton just went to the apparel side. They have a pretty loyal following for those who use the bike, and it just becomes an extra opportunity for Nike's business to grow. Apple, on the other hand, so they have the Apple Plus Fitness. They already have instructors and things like that. So here's an opportunity for, if Apple want to acquire them, to add more value to that family subscription that they have with iMusic, Apple TV, Fitness Plus, that whole thing. So those two kind of make sense to me. Amazon's a little tough. I don't know that they would want to get into that. I don't know what that all looks like. But I was kind of surprised when that's rumor started coming out Friday after the close. But interesting story. Of course, kicking myself when it was $24 last week. I should have got some calls this week. But then the stock sells off on the CEO departure or stepping down and just going on the director side. Tough story. So I'll watch it. Definitely not going to try and do any FOMO trades or what have you on that one. That's Peloton. Oh, DWAC, right? So I've mentioned on the watch list, and I know some folks have been on. I mentioned this for quite some time, especially when the news came out. Was it end of last year? But here's the whole controversy going on with Spotify and Joe Rogan, and all these artists looking to pull their content from Spotify. You have folks who don't agree with that, right? And maybe they love Joe Rogan. This is not an argument about right or wrong. Obviously, what he said and was not right. But there's people who still are very loyal to him. So and also people, there's two sides right now. There's one side that people don't want to be censored and things like that. So it plays right into some of these names. The DWAC, was it CTIV? I guess CEO said he offered Rogan $100 million to come onto his platform. So those are just names to watch, especially I was looking at Facebook too, and Facebook, their engagement's down. Of course, a lot of that has to do with competitive reasons. A lot of other apps and things that take up people's a lot of time these days, as opposed to just staring at Facebook. But I thought those were some reasons that maybe this thing starts to take off. A little piece in the Wall Street Journal this morning talk about the warrants, because right now DWAC is technically still a SPAC, right? So it has the acquisition or the merger isn't finalized. So what that means is it has the warrants, and the warrants, $11.50 is what the warrants are on the SPAC. So when the deal gets consummated, then you sell your stock for whatever the difference is, right? So if the stock is at $90 and the deal is consummated, you're going to clear at $88, right? $88.50. So right now the warrants are trading at like $33. I don't even have it up on my thing. Is it DWACW? I always forget how to find out what the warrants are on some of these names. So it's 26.97 right now. It's trading. So there's a huge disconnect between the price of the stock and the price of the warrants, because you would think that the warrants should be trading maybe at 11.50 discount. So if if DWAC's at 84 bucks, the warrants should be somewhere in the 70s, low 70s or whatever. So they're not. So maybe there's more concern that a deal might not be consummated, or concerns, who knows. So that kind of had me a little on the fence yesterday. And then there was rumors swirling that they're going to push back their Truth Social app. So for those reasons, I'll probably just continue to watch, but probably not look to get anything just yet. But at some point, that's a name that just can go bonkers for no other reason. It doesn't have to be fundamental, whatever. It's going to go to 200 bucks out of nowhere, and we'll be kicking ourselves. I think that's it. MDGL ticker. I think I posted yesterday, probably the last one standing in the Nash space. They actually reported decent top line results last week, and the stock really didn't run too much. And now I started looking at I pulled up the ticker, and it looks like someone's bidding it up. Like, I don't know if it's a fund or somebody, looking to get a stake, but it's just been nonstop. So I don't know, maybe some 100 strikes as a speculative trade. So don't be surprised if you see me add it on that name. It's the last one standing. Intercept. They're trying to clear some things up. They have data coming out soon, so maybe that they get their act together. But interesting stuff. Oh, and Edit, ticker EDIT. Just what a crud show. Their CMO, chief medical officer, was fired yesterday. It's almost, at first it looked like they were going to rally on the news, because maybe like, oh, this maybe is the bottom, and now it's selling off again. So probably take that off my watch list. FUBO, yeah. FUBO, DraftKings, all stubborn, and you think, right? So you have World Cup qualifying is still going on. Then you have lots of sports related things going, and you would think that the stock would be doing substantially better than where it is. Not to mention all the money that's pouring into gambling. So if you're forward thinking, you have to think FUBO is going to be one of the leading platforms for people to watch and bet on the game at the same time, right? How cool is that? You're being almost at like your own personal sports book when you're watching TV, and it flashes all the odds and stuff. I mean, a lot of the channels are kind of doing some of that stuff, and ESPN is, they'll come on halftime or whatever. They'll say, oh, this is the odds for the over-under and things like that. But that's a tough one. I love FUBO. I was trying to think. There was something that I saw. Was it an advertisement? I forget. That's a rant for another day. But they report on the 23rd as well. So 2 weeks from tomorrow. So maybe a speculative, especially if it's down here in the 9s, 10s, a speculative trade for a lotto on FUBO. I don't even know what are the 15s in 2 weeks. And I know it's a lot, 50%, but it's not like the stock wasn't in the 20s just recently. Let's see here. FUBO February 25th. February 25th, 13 calls are actually not bad on a risk-reward basis. So that's interesting. Also, you have that Lightspeed analyst. The guy gave a 50-cent price target on AMC, a $5 price target on FUBO, something like, I forget. But anyway, it's not that he threw the towel in on FUBO, but he came out and went neutral or something the other day. So that caused a stock to go a nice little mini run. But that's interesting. Maybe there's something I'll add longer term. Maybe even Marches, right? That might be better. Because, I always have the song in my head from the Limbo when I look at some of these names, and it's like, how low can you go? I don't know that FUBO can go much lower, but I didn't think it would be down here. If you told me a couple months ago, I'd be like, you're crazy. 15s are 27 by 29 on March. Interesting. All right, folks, I think that's it. I'll try and get on the audio before the close. Otherwise, let's go APPS, and have a great day. Rock and roll.